What if New York's deadliest day wasn't on land? A bright June morning, sunlight over the East River, a church outing aboard a proud white steamer. Then, one spark, a whisper of smoke, and screams swallowed by flame. But what really happened beneath those dark waters? At the dawn of the 20th century, New York was a city of optimism. Steel rising skyward, steamers crowding its piers, the future shimmering on the horizon. And among the proud vessels lining the East River, one stood out, the SS General Slocum, a gleaming white excursion steamer, 264 feet long, built in 1891 by Divine Burtis and Cubbers of Brooklyn. She was the pride of the Knickerbocker Steamboat Company, named after a Civil War general, built for laughter, picnics, and summer outings. Polished brass rails, grand decks, painted wooden benches. She carried thousands of families up the East River toward the Green Islands beyond the city smoke. For 13 years, she was joy itself. Church picnics, school trips, Sunday sails, a small floating world of hymns and laughter. But time corrodes more than metal. Her hoses had rotted, lifeboats jammed with paint, life vests filled with crumbling cork dust, unseen neglect beneath her white paint. June 15th, 1904. A bright Wednesday morning. The St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church of Little Germany prepared for its annual picnic. Over 1,300 passengers, mostly women and children. The church's pastor, George Haas, watched them board. Mothers carrying baskets, children clutching dolls, the band setting up on deck. At 9:30 a.m., the General Slocum left 3rd Street Pier. She was bound for Long Island's picnic grounds. The air smelled of salt, coal, and roses. No one on board knew it would be New York's deadliest day until September 11th, 2001. At 10:04 a.m., near Hell Gate, a treacherous stretch of the East River, a small flame began licking at the lower deck. It was started by a discarded match in a paint locker filled with oily rags. A boy noticed smoke curling from below. When the alarm was raised, panic collided with disbelief. The crew, untrained and terrified, froze. The captain, William Van Shake, ordered full speed ahead, hoping to beach the vessel. But the rushing air only fed the flames. Within minutes, fire burst through the decks like a living beast. Mothers pressed wet handkerchiefs over children's faces. The lifeboats, painted fast to the deck. The life vests, powdered cork. They crumbled or dragged wearers under. The paddle wheels churned onward. The Slocum transformed from pleasure steamer to furnace. Passengers leapt into the river, dresses ballooning, shoes heavy, screams echoing across the East River. Only a few boats dared approach the inferno. Tugboats, fishermen, even workers from the Bronx shoreline. They pulled bodies from the water, burning and broken. By the time the General Slocum ran aground at North Brother Island, it was over. In 15 minutes, 1,021 people were gone. North Brother Island became a field of grief. The hospital staff wept as they pulled tiny bodies from the river. Manhattan's German community, once vibrant and proud, was shattered overnight. Little Germany never recovered. Families vanished. The survivors moved away, their church empty for decades. The SS General Slocum burned to her bones, a skeleton steaming in the shallows, a floating graveyard in sight of the city's towers. In the days that followed, newspapers screamed, "A floating tomb on the East River." New York demanded answers. The inquiry began within 24 hours. Every detail peeled away the illusion of safety. Inspectors discovered that the ship's fire hoses had disintegrated years earlier. When used, they burst apart in the crew's hands. Lifeboats, welded to the deck with thick paint. Life preservers, stuffed with cheap cork dust that turned to stone and sank. The Knickerbocker Steamboat Company had ignored every inspection. Federal officials had signed certificates without boarding the ship. Corruption, greed, and complacency all converged on that June morning. Captain Van Shake, who had survived, insisted he tried to beach the vessel. Investigators found that he could have turned earlier toward the Bronx shore. but instead continued upriver into stronger winds. His decision sealed the passenger's fate. The final verdict shocked the city. The captain was sentenced to 10 years in prison for negligence. The owners and inspectors, those who ignored safety laws, escaped with fines or nothing at all. Public outrage roared, then faded. The news cycle moved on. The survivors, mostly widows and orphans, faced empty homes and unanswered prayers. Years later, Van Schaik was quietly pardoned by President Taft, a move that reopened old wounds. To many, it proved that in America's new industrial age, the poor paid for the sins of the powerful. The Slocum tragedy reshaped maritime law. Inspections grew stricter, safety drills mandatory, life vests regulated. But in memory, the fire faded. New York rebuilt, its skyline rising higher each year, until the day came when almost no one remembered the steamer that burned at sea. Out of more than 1,000 souls, only a handful lived to tell what happened. Among them was Adela Libanow, just 6 months old when the Slocum caught fire. Her mother had thrown her into the river, hoping someone would catch her. Adela was found floating, unconscious, her tiny body bruised. Everyone else in her family was gone. Years later, as an old woman, she spoke softly to a reporter. I remember nothing of that day. But every June 15th, I feel the river calling. It's like the city holds its breath. Another survivor, a young girl named Anna Libanow, described the horror from her hospital bed. The decks were like ovens. We ran from one flame into another. The river looked like salvation, but it swallowed us whole. For decades, survivors gathered each year at a small memorial in Tompkins Square Park. They brought flowers, photographs, and silence. The crowds grew smaller with every passing June. By the 1960s, only a few remained. Old faces, trembling hands, lighting candles beside a stone that read, "They were Earth's purest children." Today, the wreck of the General Slocum lies buried beneath layers of silt off North Brother Island, invisible beneath the city's noise. But divers still report fragments, scorched metal, porcelain, a child's shoe. In the depths, the ship sleeps, a relic of arrogance and innocence lost. And on the surface, New York rushes on, unaware that beneath its shining skyline, a ghost still drifts where the East River once burned bright as fire. The General Slocum wasn't just a ship. The narrator's voice breaks softly. It was the sound of laughter turned to smoke. A summer morning that never ended. If their story moved you, keep their memory alive. Like, share, and subscribe to Sea Tragedies, where every lost voyage finds its voice again.